Welcome to the NickyNick New York show. In addition to entertainment, I want to also do an information exchange type thing with you. And today I have the pleasure of having Miss Sandra Street with me. I'm a bit biased because she was my child's teacher and I've worked with her and she's been lovely and wonderful. So I had to bring her on the show. Okay, so I want you to give a warm welcome to Sandra Street. Hi, how are you?
How are you?
Okay.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you for coming. Why don't you explain to everybody what kind of teacher you are and what kind of classes do you teach?
I'm an early elementary general education teacher. I teach in Queens, and the type of classroom that I've been teaching for the last 4 years has been a collaborative team teaching classroom. We educate children that have special needs along with children who don't have special needs. And I have a co-teacher in the room with me who's a special educator. And that's been my experience for the last 4 years in Queens.
Okay, and how do you like it? Do you find it very challenging? Or?
Extremely. It's rewarding in that as a teacher you're forced to learn various ways of presenting information to the children, because they all learn at different levels. So the challenge is to come up with interesting and exciting methods to keep the children engaged and interested. So every day something new comes up.
The children in your class that have the mild special needs, what type of special needs? Give us a few types, examples of the type of special needs that you may come across.
Some children just take longer to get a concept. If that's the case, the teacher has to determine the best way for the child to learn. Some children are visual learners. You use pictures, you use graphic organizers, you use chart paper. Some children learn kinesthetically, in that movement helps them understand a concept. So for math, perhaps we might do jumping jacks, counting by tens to 100. Or we might do Simon Says, we might do sequencing exercises. We have some children who are dyslexic, in that the way they hear sounds is not how they present sounds on paper. We have some children that are hyperactive, who require a great deal of attention, and we have to accommodate them and their learning style in a variety of ways, whichever works.
I would imagine it would be very difficult to try to figure out which child needs what type of learning, and to be able to give them that type of learning when there's a whole assorted bunch of kids in there. Like this one needs the kinetic and this one needs this. Yes. So I would imagine that requires a lot of juggling. And
yes, it does. But honestly, the children let the teachers know.
Okay.
So if a child answers a question in a certain way, or asks a question in a certain way, or doesn't understand something, they show it in some way, shape, or form. So they let the teacher know, I don't get it, I do get it, I don't want to get it, I do want to get it. So they tell on themselves pretty much. And oftentimes they make it quite obvious. So then we teachers take that information and adjust ourselves according to what the child needs, versus the reverse.
Okay. What do you find the most frustrating?
May I answer that honestly?
Please do.
Parents. I find that many parents consider the teacher to be the enemy. Many parents consider the teacher to be against them, or that we point fingers at them. It's important for me as an educator that the parent understand I need them in my life just as much as the child needs them in their lives. So I work very hard on helping the parent feel comfortable, and because your child might need a certain extra, it doesn't mean there's something wrong. It just means that child needs a certain extra, and there's only so much I can do within a fixed period of time. But with you at home, you can translate that into your own way, that you do things at home. Whatever works at home, share with me so I can maybe translate that into the classroom. It's difficult because parent involvement is just not all that it should be. That might sound judgmental, but I need the parents' help, and oftentimes I don't get it.
I've spoken to a few parents myself, and I've seen, especially West Indian parents, where they find that if anybody labels their child with anything, all of a sudden they're offended or they're in denial, and they'll remove their children from the circumstance. And I really think it's important for people to understand that these children with these special needs are not dumb. Right. They're not unintelligent.
Absolutely.
Okay, they may require a little more work,
yes.
a little more molding.
Yes.
But very often, especially a child with ADD, I find that they're more creative.
Yes.
And they think outside the box. Okay, we've had many athletes, many politicians, actors that have ADD, and most people wouldn't know it.
Yes.
And what would you say, and I'm saying this especially to the West Indians and the Haitians, the Haitian community, you know, they really want to take their kids out. What would you say to these parents especially? What would you say to them?
Firstly, I would acknowledge their concern, but if they themselves could not acknowledge a concern, my hands are tied. I'm limited. You can't run away from an issue, because no matter where you go, that same child is going. So you can change the building, you can change the zip code, but that same child is there. Let's share. This is what I notice between the hours of 8, 10, and 3 o'clock. What do you notice? I've just discovered culturally, people of African descent are often set up for failure. And oftentimes, information is not presented to them in a way that they can all understand. So I feel that based on fear of the unknown, perhaps the parent wasn't a wonderful student. Perhaps the parent had the same kinds of issues that the child has. Maybe the parent feels guilty. There's a whole lot of stuff out there that the parent mistakenly puts onto the child. So that's why I say the teacher's not the enemy. You can share something depending on the teacher. Not all teachers are conscientious. But depending on the teacher, you can share some things so you can together put something together for benefit of the child. I understand it's not easy, but we're already starting behind the 8 ball. Don't give the rest of the society more ammunition to hold our children back. And that's part of the reason why I became an educator. I have 2 boys. And I understand that our boys are set up for failure, that boys learn differently from girls. I understand that there might be that teacher who doesn't get one of my boys and wants to label one of my boys because he or she doesn't know what to do with one of my boys. So I wanted to get into the same system that my children would be in. So I would make sure to speak the same language as the school, speak the same language as the educators, so I could know more than they know. So when it's time for my child to come through the door, I can present a fuller package. I don't want to be at the mercy of someone else telling me all this stuff about my child. And I have nothing to offer. I just have to take what they have to say. Personally, that's why I became an educator. Because I know what's out there. Right. And I know they shortchange our boys, especially our boys of African descent. No matter what island, I'm from Brooklyn, I'm a Yankee girl. And no matter where you come from, a person of color, it's automatically assumed that you're without and you don't have. So you're set up from the beginning. So I have to try to undo some of that.
And believe me, parents, it's very important important to work with your teachers. I had the pleasure of working with Ms. Street, and it made my son's academic year so much easier. So it's very, very important to work with your teachers, to talk with your teachers, stay in contact with your teachers, write little notes to your teacher. How is he today? If something is going on in their house, you don't have to let them know all your business, but you could just say, we had a hard night last night, so my son or my daughter may have a difficult day today. It's very, very important.
Absolutely.
So we'll be right back. Give us a minute. Don't change the channel.